Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be redesigning some characters for My Little Pony. Let's get started. Lots of people have already redesigned the main 6, so I wanted to do something a little different. Instead of doing the main 6, I wanted to do the princesses as humans. I thought this would be more fun too. But I had to think about what kind of setting I would pick. In Equestria Girls, the setting is a high school, whereas the main show is a fantasy setting. I decided that I wanted to do the fantasy setting, mostly because this just seems more fun. And I'm more of a fan of fantasy. I may make more videos like these if you guys are interested. Let's start with Celestia. First I looked at her original design for inspiration. Her pony form has an all-white coat and different colored streaks in her hair. She's an alicorn. This means that she has both wings and a unicorn horn. I'm going to keep all these things the same. Now the Equestria Girls design. Personally, I don't like this one. I think it's a little too much color. When you look at both of these versions, the distribution of color is different. Yet, one thing is the same, her skin color. I'm also keeping the skin tone the same as the pony color. This is because I want my designs to feel like the original version. Color works differently on different skin tones. By keeping it the same, they will feel similar. Or at least I hope they do. Let me show you my concept for Celestia. Okay, so, my idea was to give her some sort of long flowing dress. I was thinking something like Queen Serenity from Sailor Moon. I also gave her some gold armor pieces. Not a lot though. Spoiler, but for my Luna design, I give Luna more armor than Celestia. This is because I view Celestia more as a diplomat than a fighter. Lastly, the distribution of color is mostly white with some accents. So, now we have a plan. Let's get started drawing the final version. So for my final drawing, I wanted her to feel ethereal and fluid. I tried to make her hair and skirt look like they were flowing. I also gave her a staff for some reason. It doesn't really make sense, she would just use her horn to use her magic. But, I thought it was fitting for her. I tried to include her cutie mark, so I put it on the staff. And I also gave her a halo that looks like the sun. I decided, for these artworks, I wanted to make them more rendered and blended. It's been a while since I've done this style, so it took warming up too. I did the easy parts first because, I won't lie, coloring the hair seemed kind of intimidating. I started with coloring her skin because it's what I'm most familiar with, and it's also simple. And it's also the quickest. I'm not sure why, but I drew her eyes closed in the final version. I think it suits her more ethereal and majestic look. If her eyes were open, they would probably be the same purple-pink color as her pony version. Next, I moved on to her skirt. I made it mostly white, but it fades to the different colors at the bottom. I wonder why they chose these colors for her hair. To me, it reminds me of a sunset or something. It's a more unique approach than just making her hair the color of the sky or the sun. It's like it represents all the different colors the sky can be. Shading this was kind of tricky because again, it's been a while since I've done this style. But, I think I managed. Next, I worked on her skirt thing. This was basically the same as coloring the dress. I just tried to remember where I placed my light source and I worked from there. It was actually pretty fun. I started by laying down my base shadows, then I blended them. After that, I just added more details like highlights and bounce lights. And, I knew the part one was dreading was coming. Her hair. I just knew that the most interesting part of her design was her hair, so I wanted it to be perfect. I started by laying down my base shadows. Then I added soft shadows and gradients. After refining those, I started with the highlights. I tried to make her hair look shiny and like it's flowing. Lastly, I added a ton of sparkles, because why not? We're done with the hair for now, we'll come back to it later to refine the details. And this was because I wanted to move on to coloring the gold. Personally, I actually find this fun. I like drawing shiny and sparkly things. In my concept, I didn't actually design any shoes. But for this drawing, obviously, they're showing. So I just made them up as I went. And of course, I made them sparkle like the rest of the gold in her outfit. Also, can I just say that I did not know what to do with her crown? In the original, it's just a normal crown sitting on top of her head. But, with her hair and her horn, it would have been hard to see and lacked clarity. So, I kinda just turned it upside down. Out of the two designs I did today, I made Celestia's crown the largest. Because she's more of a queen than a princess if we're being honest. This is less on topic, but why is Celestia so big? Or, why is Luna so small? Celestia is a lot taller than Luna, so is Luna just short? If it's because Celestia is older than Luna, then why didn't Cadance get big before Twilight got tall? Since she's older. Or if it's related to how much magical power an Alicorn has, why didn't Twilight get tall when she had Celestia, Luna, and Cadance's magic? I don't know. What's your headcanon? Maybe you think it's a combination of all these things. Or maybe something else entirely. Let me know in the comments. Going back to the artwork, I began making small adjustments here and there. I wanted to add some more variation to the colors and add more sparkles. This is also when I finished those gems, which are on Celestia's original design. I tried to incorporate some other elements from her pony form. Like her general shoe shape, this gold thing, etc. We're in the final stretch now. I added more details where I thought they were needed, like in her hair. After that, we're done. Here is the final version for Celestia. Let me know what you think about her. Let's move on to Luna now. First, I looked at her original design. She's also an Alicorn like her sister. She has a dark blue coat and blue eyes. Her accessories are either black or lavender, and her hair is blue. I'm going to keep everything pretty much the same, kind of. It's all going to be altered to fit a human character. As we discussed, we'll keep the wings, horn, and blue skin tone. Let's look at the Equestria girl's design. Oh my god. I mean, it's okay. It's not really doing it for me. I'm not a huge fan of any of the Equestria girl's designs. So, I'm not really going to take any inspiration from this version of Luna. However, there is one thing I failed to mention this far when talking about what has inspired these designs. And that's the anime figures of Celestia and Luna. Truthfully, I just forgot to mention Celestia's figure and I can't add that section now because I'm already editing it. So I guess we'll talk about them here. I took more inspiration from this version of Luna out of them all. She looks more like a princess to me. She's wearing a corset, short sleeves, many skirt layers, and more. For my design, I lean less princess-like, just because I think that fits her. I'll make the skirt and corset situation similar, and then add my own spin on it. But anyway, for my concept, I want to keep the theme the same by adding things like stars and moons. So, what did I come up with? Let me show you my concept. Okay, here's what I've got planned. My idea is to make her a bit like a knight with more armor, but to keep the princess feeling by giving her a long skirt and such. I gave her armor gauntlets and armor boot things. I'm not sure what these are called. I also made her crown a little bit like a helmet. I also put a few patterns on her, one specifically being the moon phases throughout the month. Also, I gave her long sleeves. I don't know, she just seems like she'd prefer long sleeves. So, let's get started on the final artwork. I started shading her skin first because again, this is the easiest part. I started with soft gradients. I made her horn fade to be darker, and it's smaller than Celestia's. Like how it is in the show. I usually start shading the face, then I move on to the other parts. I made sure to include all the facial details such as the eyeshadow and her eye color. I ended up drawing her eyes with these slits. I'll talk about this more later in the video. I added them because I just like them, but anyway. I kept the skin simple because that's the style I'm going for. For Luna, because her skin tone is darker, I was able to add more highlights, in comparison to Celestia. This is usually how I shade darker skin tones because it's easier this way. Next, I started the dress. Again, I'm doing the easy parts first because I know the armor and sword are going to be hard. Oh yeah, I forgot, but I gave her a sword. I'm not sure why either, but I think it's fitting for her. After shading her clothing, I decided to jump in and do her armor. Some parts were easy, so of course I did those first. When I shade things like metal, I start with sharp shadows and highlights. I usually blend some parts and add gradients, but not too much. I try to pay attention to the geometry of things like the crown when I'm coloring them. When you add highlights and shadows, it can really show the form of an item. Next, I guess I wanted to jump around some and I started her wings. Also, I forgot to shade them when I colored her skin. I wish I could show you everything chronologically. In a way that makes sense, but sometimes I really just work on some areas then jump around to somewhere else. It can be confusing to explain. Anyway, I wanted to do better than I did for Celestia's wings, just because I think I didn't put enough detail into hers. I'll come back later and add some more details once I start doing the final revisions for Luna. Let's work on the longer skirt in the back. I didn't really know how much detail to add to this section. But, because Luna's design is more simple than Celestia's, I decided more would be better. I ended up adding some stars and constellations. I don't really know what they mean, I was never really onto stars and astrology stuff. However, the thing I was dreading was approaching. But first, let's draw the moons. I wanted these to look kind of like crystals or gems. The way I draw gems is usually with the lasso tool. I select small scribbles and add shadows. Then I do the same for the highlights. After messing around some more, I knew it was time. The armor corset, gauntlets, and boots. I started with the shadows like I normally do. I tried to shade them like how I drew the other metal in the picture to match the style. I added more details though, because I want these to be a focal point. I will add some highlights now, but I'll come back later to add some more and polish the details more. I wasn't really satisfied with it now, so we will be back. Let's tackle the hair next. The hair was a little less straightforward than Celestia's. And, of course, I start with the shadows. There's not really a right or wrong way to start shading. I just prefer starting with the shadows. But you can start wherever you want. The specific places where I add the most details are near the face, that's because I want you to look there first. By adding more details in one area, it will draw your attention more by default. Or at least, that's what I'm hoping. To finish the drawing I started adding filters, color corrections, and more details. I added a stronger light source by adding more highlights. I ended up shifting the hues to be more muted in purple. Especially for those teal colors. I was looking at what Luna actually looks like and realized the colors could be fixed a little. Now, the thing I mentioned earlier. What I wanted to say was that she kind of looks like Nightmare Moon. The armor, the helmet, the eyes. I was just adding features and things that I liked when I designed her. To be fair, I did add more light colors to try and combat this, but, yeah, she does kind of look like Nightmare Moon. Oops. Maybe I could do a second version to show what Nightmare Moon would actually look like in this style. We'll see. If you're curious to why I choose to make her crown look somewhat like a helmet, it's because I took inspiration from the bat ponies that are seen with Luna. I also added a subtle bat wing shape to her corset. And eventually, we are done. Here is the final drawing of Princess Luna. And here is Luna and Celestia together. I hope you enjoyed watching me explain my process of drawing and character design. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments. The next video will be the last part of the Yandere Simulator series. Bye everyone!